Hey guys, how's it going? So for this video I wanted to discuss the psychology of Walter White in Breaking Bad. What I find extremely fascinating about Breaking Bad is that the plot exemplifies the fact that ordinary human beings are capable of committing very heinous and reprehensible actions. Even human beings who have lived a conventional and quote-unquote normal life for the entirety of their life immediately preceding their heinous and reprehensible actions. Walter White in Breaking Bad is the personification of this psychological phenomenon. Jordan Peterson gives an excellent summary of the psychology of Walter White in a lecture he gave and posted to YouTube. In summary, during the first 50 years of his life, Walter White was a typical middle-class man who lived an ordinary and unremarkable life. However, by the end of the show, this man transformed from an unremarkable high school chemistry teacher into a man who would solicit and carry out murder for hire among many other morally questionable actions. Jordan Peterson outlined the fact that there were latent factors as well as events over the course of Walter White's life which caused him to break from his ordinary and unremarkable life. These factors were exposed and unleashed by an abnormal circumstance which occurred during Walter's life, his terminal lung cancer diagnosis. In his lecture, Jordan Peterson states what made Walter White a normal, ordinary guy during the first 50 years of his life was the fact that he had not been put into abnormal circumstances. Looking back at the plot of Breaking Bad, the readily apparent circumstance which occurs in Walter White's life in the very first episode of Breaking Bad is his terminal lung cancer diagnosis. This news completely changed Walter White's outlook on his life. After hearing this news, he analyzes his situation and realizes that his predicament is going to cause him to leave his wife and family with no means of financial security after he dies. So, in order to mitigate this problem, he decides to use his expertise in the field of chemistry to make him money, albeit illegally, in order to give his family some financial stability after his death. However, Jordan Peterson states that Walter White's story is not as simple as the fact that he was a normal guy who was placed in an abnormal circumstance which caused him to turn bad. While this is one part of what caused Walter White to do what he did, Jordan Peterson also states that there were also latent underlying factors from Walter White's past which caused him to do what he did. Jordan Peterson states that the latent underlying factors which caused Walter White to become this bad individual was the fact that Walter was very angry and resentful. Walter is angry and resentful at the fact that he saw himself as a pushover over the course of his 50 years of life. We see this manifest in the scenes during the pilot episode of Breaking Bad before his lung cancer diagnosis. One scene that stands out in the pilot episode before Walter White's lung cancer diagnosis, which exemplifies the fact that Walter White is a pushover, is the scene in his classroom at the beginning of the episode.
Chad, is there something wrong with your table? Okay. Ionic bonds. Are you done? Ionic bonds. Chapter 6.
We see another example of Walter White being a pushover during the scene at the car wash, Walter White's second job during the pilot episode of Breaking Bad as well.
He's not coming. He said he quit. I'm gonna run the register.
No. We talked about this.
I'm short-handed, Walter. What am I to do? Walter? What am I to do?
In addition to these scenes being examples which display the cause of Walter White's anger and resentment being the result of him being a pushover, Walter was also incredibly angry and resentful at the fact that he did not live up to the potential of his intellectual abilities. We see Walter's anger and resentment regarding his failures in life in many scenes over the entire course of Breaking Bad. One scene that comes to mind is the scene where Walter White meets with Gretchen Swartz, his former founding business partner as well as former love interest, in season 2 of Breaking Bad in the episode entitled Peekaboo. In this scene, we see Walter's anger and resentment manifest in full force.
What happened? Because this isn't you.
What would you know about me, Gretchen? What would your presumption about me be exactly? That I should go begging for your charity? And you waving your checkbook around like some magic wand is going to make me forget how you and Elliot cut me out.
What? That can't be how you see it.
with my hard work, my research, and you and Elliot make millions off it.
This scene demonstrates the full force of Walter White's anger and resentment. Walter is so angry and resentful of whatever he feels that Gretchen and Elliot Schwartz, Gretchen's husband and Walter's former business partner, did to him, he would rather manufacture and sell methamphetamine in order to pay for his lung cancer treatment rather than take money from people who could most certainly afford to pay for his cancer treatment. Walter's lung cancer diagnosis caused him to display his true latent feelings to Gretchen regarding his interpretation of what happened with gray matter technology, the company the three of them founded. Walter expresses his anger and resentment to Gretchen in a manner which he might have never done had he not been diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. As a side note, while the exact details regarding Walter White and gray matter technology are never completely revealed to us, more information about this incident was revealed by Walter White in season 5 of Breaking Bad in the episode entitled Buyouts.
Now we were gonna take the world by storm. And then this, something happened between the three of us, and I'm not going to go into detail, but for personal reasons, I decided to leave the company, and I sold my share, my potential, for $5,000. I sold my kid's birthright for a few months' rent.
Again, in this scene, we see another example of Walter White's anger and resentment being manifested as a result of him never living up to his full potential. The story of Walter White over the course of Breaking Bad personifies the fact that ordinary people who are put in abnormal and adverse circumstances, who also have latent anger and resentment, are capable of committing actions which they would have once deemed morally indefensible. Interestingly, Jordan Peterson also states in the same lecture another example similar to Walter White in Breaking Bad, which also personifies the fact that ordinary people are capable of committing heinous actions. This example being the events surrounding Germany before and during World War II, which was caused by adverse circumstances in conjunction with the anger and resentment of the German people following World War I. The point of Jordan Peterson's lecture here is to illuminate the fact that all human beings living today have the internal psychological mechanisms instilled in them to commit actions in the same capacity as the actions committed in Germany before and during World War II. Relating this back to Breaking Bad, Walter White, the personification of this fact, hired and fraternized with people who were outwardly sympathetic to the ideas held by the majority of the German people during the interwar period as well as World War II. While the actions of Walter White are clearly not identically parallel to the actions of the vast majority of German people during the interwar period as well as World War II, Walter White's actions display to us a modern-day example in the form of the plot of a television show, the phenomenon that all ordinary human beings who are put in abnormal and adverse circumstances, who also have dormant anger and resentment, have the internal psychological mechanisms instilled in them which are capable of causing them to commit very heinous and reprehensible actions. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching this video. If you like this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any videos. My name is Anton Jackson. Thanks again for watching.